Welcome back to another edition of The Deep Dive.
Mm.
Today, we are going to get into something that is going to feel, I think, uncomfortably familiar to, I would bet, every single person listening to this right now.
Oh, that's a bold claim.
It is, but I'm confident.
Mm.
We're talking about a very specific, very annoying state of mind. You know that feeling when you're just stuck?
Stuck how? Like physically? In traffic?
No, not physically, mentally, energetically.
Yeah.
You're not sick, you aren't exactly depressed or, not in the clinical sense anyway, but you're just sitting there staring at a wall.
Mm-hmm.
You've had your coffee, maybe you've even had a nap, but your brain is just buffering. You feel like a zombie, just a total resounding meh.
Ah, yes. The universal brain fog, that feeling of operating at about, 30% capacity while the rest of your system is just idling?
Exactly. It's that feeling where you look at your to-do list and it looks like it's written in hieroglyphics.
Yeah.
And usually when we feel that way, we have a standard list of suspects we blame.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We say, oh, I slept poorly, or I ate too much pasta for lunch, or I'm just burnt out from work.
Right. We look for the easy biological reasons, the physical causes.
But today, we're looking at a source that suggests that this blah feeling, this zombie mode, might actually be a glitch in reality. Or, maybe more accurately, a glitch in how we're focusing on reality.
It is a fascinating premise, the idea that this lethargy isn't always just a lack of calories or sleep, but it's a case of getting stuck in the doorway between two different states of consciousness.
I love that image, stuck in the doorway. It's such a perfect visual for that feeling. But before we dive fully into the doorway, we have to handle the official housekeeping.
Rules of the road.
Indeed. We need to state explicitly that this podcast is distributed free of charge on all major platforms for educational purposes. We're here to explore, to learn, and hopefully help you snap out of the fog yourself.
And our source material today is extremely specific. I mean, we aren't pulling from a general philosophy book. We are looking at session 130 of the Seth material.
And this was recorded quite a while ago. We're time traveling back to February 8th, 1965.
A Monday night in Elmira, New York. And for those of you who want to follow along, which, we highly recommend because seeing the raw text is a whole different experience, this session is found in the early sessions, book 3 of the Seth material.
And the publisher credit for that goes to the New Awareness Network. They're the ones keeping all these archives available.
Absolutely. And honestly, if you find what we talk about today interesting, you really should go to sethcenter.com/early sessions. Buy the books. Hold them in your hands. We're just the tour guides giving you the highlights. The books are the actual destination.
Couldn't agree more. So what's our specific mission for this deep dive?
Our mission is to analyze a very specific state that Seth, the entity channeled by Jane Roberts, calls a semi-trance. We want to understand why getting stuck in this semi-trance makes us feel like, garbage.
Right.
And then, most importantly, we want to reveal the cure.
And I have to say, looking at the notes, the cure is hilariously simple. It's almost insultingly simple.
It is. But sometimes the most profound things are the simplest, right?
True. So let's set the scene. It's February 8th, 1965. Jane Roberts is the writer who speaks for Seth. Her husband, Rob, is there taking notes. It's a Monday. What's the vibe in the Roberts household that day?
Well, it's a fairly typical day on the surface, but there's this undercurrent of heavy intellectual lifting going on. Jane had been writing in the morning. She was actually feeling pretty productive early on.
Okay.
But she was also reading a very dense book.
Oh, right. What was she reading?
She was reading The Self and Transformation by Ruburt.
The Self and Transformation. That sounds heavy.
It is. It's a book about psychoanalysis, mysticism, and the nature of the self. Jane actually noted that she considered the book to be excellent. So she's not bored, she's engaged, she's thinking deeply about the nature of her own existence.
Which is kind of ironic, considering she was about to transform into a couch potato.
A little bit, yes. As the day wears on, this creeping fog just begins to roll in.
It's the Monday crash. We've all been there.
But it's worse than that. She says in her notes that she felt quite lethargic and sleepy. Now, usually, if you or I feel that way, what do?
We take a nap. Or get more caffeine.
Exactly. And Jane did take a nap. She had supper and she lay down. But, and this is the key, when she woke up, nothing had changed.
Ugh, that is the worst feeling. When you take the nap hoping for a reset and you wake up feeling groggier than when you lay down.
And she even drank coffee.
A universal fix. And it didn't work.
Still, the drowsiness wouldn't lift. It was stubborn. But then she mentions a specific symptom that takes this from I'm just tired to Okay, something weird is happening.
It's the hands.
It's the hands.
Yes, the light hands phenomena. Can we unpack that? Because if my hands suddenly started feeling weightless, I'd probably be freaking out a little bit.
It is a very specific dissociation symptom. Jane described it as a slight but perceivable feeling of lightness.
Like they were floating or filled with helium.
Maybe. Or just that the gravitational pull on them felt less intense. It's a sensory distortion. It's a sign that her physical connection to her body was, well, loosening. She wasn't fully occupying the physical vessel.
And she knew it was weird, right? She wasn't just ignoring it.
Oh, she knew. In the notes, she uses a word I love in this context. She says she felt suspicious.
Suspicious of herself.
Suspicious of her own state of being. She knew something was off. She wanted to tell her husband, Rob, about it. She wanted to say, hey, my hands feel like balloons and I can't wake up.
But she didn't.
She says she felt disconnected. She literally didn't know what to tell him.
That is so relatable, though. Maybe not the light hands specifically for everyone, but that feeling of being off and not having the language to explain it to your partner.
Right.
You're just sitting there, maybe staring at the TV or a book, and you feel like you're underwater. And if someone asks, what's wrong? What do you say?
You just say, I don't know, nothing.
Because I feel like my consciousness is buffering sounds completely crazy.
Precisely. So usually we just mask it. We push through. We force ourselves to go through the motions.
Now, despite feeling like a total zombie, Jane insists on holding the scheduled session with Seth that night.
Which really speaks to her discipline. I mean, this was their work. They showed up for it no matter what.
But there's a hiccup in the plan.
Right. They were supposed to have witnesses there that night, guests who were coming to watch the trance session. But as fate would have it, they called in sick.
Probably for the best, considering Jane was barely awake.
Probably. So it's just Jane and Rob, just the two of them in the apartment.
So Jane sits down. She closes her eyes. She's feeling drowsy. She has no idea what Seth is going to talk about. And usually Seth comes through with a lot of energy, right? In a booming voice. He's walking around the room, gesturing with his cigar.
Normally, yes. But this session starts very differently. Jane stays seated. Her eyes stay closed. Her voice is described as very quiet, yet clear. She's barely there. It's a very low energy start.
And Seth. I love Seth's attitude here. He doesn't come in with big metaphysical secrets about the creation of the universe right away. He doesn't start explaining the nature of God. He comes in with a bit of sass.
He does. He is not impressed with the situation. The very first thing he says is, I would have thought that my friend Ruburt would have realized what he was about.
Ruburt being his name for Jane.
Correct. It's basically Seth saying, come on, Jane, you should know what's happening to you. You've been doing this long enough. Why are you acting like this is a mystery?
So he's calling her out. He's saying, you're not sick, you're confused.
Precisely. He diagnoses the situation immediately. He says, a combination of circumstances has momentarily disrupted his orientation.
Orientation. That's a key word here. It implies direction. Like a compass.
It is the key word. Think about a compass needle. It needs to point somewhere, right? Seth explains that the book she was reading, The Self in Transformation, tended to turn her focus inward. She was contemplating these really deep concepts.
Okay, so the book was the catalyst.
Part of it. But on top of that, she had been doing what they call psychological time experiments.
Okay, let's pause there. Psychological time. We see this term popping up a lot in the early sessions. For the listener who is new to this or who maybe skipped the earlier deep dives, how would you describe that in plain English?
Think of it as a kind of meditative practice, but more active. It's a technique Seth gave them to step outside of linear time. You close your eyes, you turn your attention away from the physical room, away from the clock ticking on the wall, away from the traffic outside,
Right.
and you try to sense the spacious present.
The spacious present. I like that.
It's the reality that exists behind the clock. The feeling that all time is simultaneous. It's a deep introspective state where you try to perceive reality without the filter of your physical senses.
So it's an exercise in deep inner focus. You are deliberately unplugging from the physical world to plug into the inner world.
Yes. And Jane is getting good at it. Seth even says he is becoming fairly proficient now in the use of the trance state.
So her competence is actually part of the problem here.
In a way, yes. Because she's good at it, she slipped into it without trying. Seth says she slipped into a semi-trance so slowly that she didn't even realize it had happened.
It's the boiling frog analogy.
Exactly. You turn the heat up slowly and the frog doesn't jump out. She turned her focus inward so gradually that she just got stuck.
So she wasn't fully out in the physical world, but she also wasn't fully in the trance either.
That is the crux of the entire issue. Seth says his energy today was turned inward more than it was turned outward. But, and this is the crucial but, it wasn't turned all the way inward.
Right. She wasn't having a vision. She wasn't in a full trance speaking as Seth. She wasn't traveling the astral plane. She was just hovering.
She was in the limbo state.
Yeah.
Seth puts it perfectly. He says he was neither wholly oriented to the inner world nor to the outer, and therefore was not efficient in either.
Inefficient. That's such a gentle way of saying useless in both directions.
Essentially, yes. This is where I want to bring in an analogy, because this really clicked for me when I was reading the transcript.
Okay.
It's like standing in a hallway.
Go on. Paint the picture for us.
Okay, so imagine your house. You have the living room and you have the bedroom. The living room is the physical world. That's where you talk to your spouse, drink coffee, watch TV, pay your bills, pet the dog. It's the camouflage reality, as Seth calls it.
Got it. Living room equals earth life.
Then you have the bedroom. The bedroom is the inner world, dreaming, meditating, psychological time, creativity, the subconscious, all that good stuff.
Okay, bedroom is the inner self.
Right. So Jane left the living room. She walked out of physical focus. She walked into the hallway. But she didn't open the door to the bedroom. She just stopped.
She's staring at the coat rack.
She's staring at the coat rack. She's just standing in the hallway. She's not interacting with the physical world effectively. She's drowsy, lethargic. She can't talk to Rob properly. She feels disconnected.
But she's also not getting any of the benefits of the inner world.
None. She's not dreaming. She's not receiving wisdom. She's just buffering in the hallway.
That is a scarily accurate way to visualize it. And Seth validates this. He says, the symptoms of such a semi-trance state include the sleepiness and drugged feeling with which he was afflicted. The lightness of the hands is another such symptom.
So the physical symptoms, the tiredness, the weird hands, those were actually signal flares.
Signal flares from the body.
Yeah, they were the body saying, hey, you're not fully occupying this vehicle right now. We are running on autopilot. Is anyone driving this thing?
That is wild to think about. How many times have I felt drugged or sleepy in the middle of the day and thought I needed caffeine when really maybe I was just mildly dissociated?
I think it happens constantly in the modern world. I mean, think about the way we scroll on our phones.
Oh, totally. That's the definition of a semi-trance.
Think about it. You're sitting on your couch, but you aren't looking at your room. You aren't hearing the traffic outside. You aren't really tasting your coffee. So you aren't in the living room.
No, I'm not.
But are you in the phone? Are you fully engaged, creating art, having a deep conversation? Usually not. You're just passively consuming images. You're watching a cat video, then a news clip, then a meme.
You're in the hallway.
You are in the digital hallway. You're in a semi-trance. And how do you feel after 2 hours of doom scrolling?
I feel terrible, exhausted, drained, like my brain is full of cotton.
Exactly. You feel inefficient in both realities. You didn't rest, but you also didn't do anything productive.
Seth actually calls this an unhappy state.
He does. He says, the outer senses are dulled, but the inner senses have not yet been turned on.
That's the worst of both worlds. It really is.
It is. When your outer senses are dulled, the world looks fuzzy, it feels distant, colors aren't as bright, sounds are muffled, you feel like there's a sheet of glass between you and reality.
But because the inner senses aren't on, you aren't getting that blast of intuition or creativity or peace that comes from deep meditation.
You're just in a gray zone.
And Seth warns that this is actually dangerous. Not in a you're gonna die way, but in a this is harmful to your well-being way.
He notes that the lethargy can be harmful because it's so subtle. He says, the obvious, more noticeable symptoms of the trance state itself are absent, and therefore the state could pass unnoticed for some time.
You can walk around like that for days.
You could, just going through the motions. A functional zombie. You go to work, you drive your car, you eat your dinner, but you were never really there.
That is a chilling thought. Just missing your own life because you're stuck in the hallway.
It is, and Seth is basically saying, wake up, either go into the bedroom or go back to the living room, but get out of the hall.
So if the problem is being stuck in the middle, what's the solution? Is it to force yourself all the way into the inner world? Should Jane have just tried harder to meditate? Should she have sat down and forced the psychological time experiment?
You would think so, right? If the problem is not being spiritual enough, you'd think the answer is be more spiritual.
Right. Double down.
But Seth says no. That is exactly the wrong approach right now. He brings up a concept here that is so central to his teaching. Contrast.
Contrast. Let's unpack that. Why does a spirit entity care about contrast?
Seth suggests that the self needs variety in its focus to stay healthy and vital. He says the great contrast then refreshes the whole self.
So we aren't meant to just be spiritual all the time. We aren't meant to live in a cave and meditate 24/7.
Absolutely not. And we aren't meant to be materialistic robots all the time either. We are meant to switch back and forth. It's the switching that keeps the energy moving. It's the dynamic tension between the two states that creates growth.
I love how he defines the goal here. He talks about the efficient use of self.
Yes. And listen to this quote carefully, because it's basically a mandate for how to live, he says. This involves efficient, complete use of the outer senses in their perception of camouflage reality, and of joyful, effective behavior and manipulation within that field.
Joyful, effective behavior. That really strikes me. He's saying when you are here, in the physical world, which he calls camouflage, you should be enjoying it.
Yes. Get your hands dirty.
You should be manipulating it, working with it, building things, creating things.
Exactly. Don't be half-hearted about physical reality. If you're washing the dishes, fully wash the dishes. Feel the warmth of the water. Smell the soap. Look at the bubbles. Be in the act.
And don't be washing the dishes while wishing you were astral projecting.
Right. And don't be planning your next meditation session while you're trying to have a conversation with your friend. Be where you are.
And then, when you switch to the inner reality,
Then you should be fully there. Experience within both realities lets the inner or whole self know more fully its own potentialities.
so the ultimate skill then isn't escaping physical reality. It's not about transcending the world. It's about being able to move between the worlds cleanly, like
Okay.
a distinct gear shift in a car.
Being in one reality while holding the knowledge of the other, but not getting stuck in the transition, that is the mastery Seth is pointing toward.
Okay, so Jane is sitting there, eyes closed, voice quiet, stuck in the hallway. Seth has diagnosed the problem. She needs contrast. She's been too inner all day, but in a vague, undefined way, she needs to snap out of it. What is the prescription? What is the magical, metaphysical cure for this stagnation?
This is my absolute favorite part of the session, because you expect something mystical. You expect him to say, visualize a white light entering your crown chakra, or chant this ancient Atlantean mantra.
Right, or burn some sage or something.
But no, Seth looks at Jane, metaphorically speaking, since he's speaking through her, and says, I'm going to suggest that our friend take a walk when we are finished here, a brisk one.
Go take a walk.
But take a walk?
It's literally go touch grass.
It is the 1965 version of Go Touch Grass. It really is.
I just find this so funny because here we are dealing with a multidimensional entity discussing the nature of consciousness, and the advice is put on your coat and go outside.
But look at the logic behind it. It's brilliant in its simplicity. Seth says, a plunge into the world of outer senses will be immediately restorative.
A plunge. I like that word. It sounds active. It sounds like jumping into a cold pool.
It implies immersion. Think about it. When you take a brisk walk, especially in February in upstate New York, I mean, what's the weather like?
Well, it's February. It's probably freezing. There's probably snow.
Exactly.
Right.
So she steps outside. The wind hits her face. The cold air fills her lungs. Her feet crunch on the snow or the pavement. The streetlights are bright. Cars are driving by.
It assaults the senses in a good way.
It does. It forces the consciousness to snap back into the physical body. You can't be half out of your body when the freezing wind is biting your nose.
It's a hard reset. You can't ignore the physical environment when it's demanding your attention like that.
Exactly. It anchors you. It pulls you out of the hallway and slams you back into the living room.
Seth also suggests turning the mind to some innocent diversion, play of a sort.
Which is so important. He's telling Jane to stop working, stop trying to be spiritual, stop the psychological time experiments, just go play. Be human for a bit.
Now, here's the most relatable part of this entire thing. Does Jane want to go for a walk?
Absolutely not. Of course not. Seth even calls this out. He knows her better than she knows herself. He says, I know Ruburt has no inclination to take a brisk walk this evening. I suggest that he do so.
That is the truest thing ever. When you are in that lethargic zombie state, the absolute last thing you want to do is exercise.
Your body feels heavy, gravity feels doubled. You just want to lie down on the couch and stare at the ceiling.
But lying down is the trap. That just keeps you in the hallway.
Exactly. Lying down reinforces the semi-trance. It tells the body, yes, we are shutting down. We are drifting. You need the contrast of physical exertion to break the loop.
It's like when your computer freezes and you have to hold the power button down to force a restart. The walk is the power button.
And Seth is quite strict about it. He actually cuts the session short.
Yeah, this is a short session compared to some of the others in the book.
He says, I will also suggest that he forget his psychological time experiments until next Monday.
Whoa. He puts her on a timeout, a spiritual timeout.
A metaphysical timeout. He says, we want contrast. Basically, Jane, you've overdone it. You're trying too hard to be inner. Take a week off, just be a regular person. Go grocery shopping, watch TV, do laundry, gossip with your neighbors.
That is such surprising advice from a spiritual teacher. Usually it's meditate more, detach more, the world is an illusion. Seth is saying, no, you're detached enough. Reattach.
Because the goal is efficiency. If you're just floating around in a fog, you aren't learning anything. You aren't growing. You're just wasting time in the hallway.
So how does the evening end? Does she listen to the disembodied voice?
Seth signs off at 9:48 p.m. Very quick.
And Jane.
Jane snaps out of the trance. She was dissociated as usual, meaning she didn't remember much of what was said during the session itself, but the notes say she felt better immediately after the session. Just the act of Seth coming through helped a little.
But she still didn't want to walk, right? I'm guessing.
Nope. She was surprised the session ended so fast. She notes, she now felt much better, but did not care about going for a walk.
Classic. I feel better, so I don't need to do the thing that made me feel better.
I'm cured. I don't need the medicine. But Rob, her husband, is a good partner. He knows the drill. He knows that Seth usually knows what he's talking about. The notes say, however, we went for one together.
Good job, Rob. I'm dragging her out the door.
And the result. Before the evening was through, she was her old self.
She was back. The zombie mode was gone.
Gone. The brisk walk worked. The plunge into the outer senses restored her orientation. She was fully back in the living room.
So what does this all mean for us? Because we aren't all channeling entities or doing psychological time experiments, but we definitely get that meh feeling.
I think the core takeaway here is about intentionality.
Intentionality. Break that down for the modern listener. What do you mean?
Seth says the subconscious has a strong and vital and intensified focus. It's not vague. We tend to think of the inner world as dreamy and foggy and misty, but Seth says no, it's intense, it's high voltage.
And the physical world is obviously intense.
Very intense. Traffic, weather, people, noise, both worlds are high definition. The problem is when we are vague.
When we are low definition.
Exactly. We need to choose. It's about commitment to the moment. Am I meditating? Then I should be fully meditating. I should be all the way in. Am I washing the car? Then I should be fully washing the car. I should be all the way out.
Drift.
Don't drift. If you catch yourself drifting, that halfway state where you're just staring or scrolling or nodding along to a conversation you aren't really listening to, you need to snap out of it. And the best way to snap out of it is physical sensation.
Touch grass.
Touch grass.
Yeah.
Splash cold water on your face. Do 10 jumping jacks. Eat a lemon.
Yeah.
Anything that forces your focus to lock back onto your physical coordinates.
It reminds me of that quote from the session. We should be in one and know it and know ourselves in it. Or we should be in the other and know ourselves in it.
And finally, while we are in one reality, we should be able, even in it, to hold our knowledge of the other. In this way, our whole selves achieve a freedom.
Freedom. That's what we're after, isn't it? Freedom from the fog. Freedom from the zombie state.
Freedom to be fully alive wherever we happen to be focused. It's about reclaiming your own consciousness from that gray, buffering state.
You know, this raises a really provocative thought for me as we wrap up.
What's that?
I'm thinking about the listener right now. Maybe you're driving. Maybe you're doing laundry. Maybe you're at the gym. How much of our day do we spend in that semi-trance?
It's kind of a frightening question when you really think about it.
Commuting on autopilot. Half listening to your spouse while checking email. We treat the physical world like a waiting room. Like we're just killing time until something better happens.
And in doing so, we miss the joy of the camouflage. We miss the vividness of life because we're standing in the hallway staring at the coat rack.
So here's our challenge to you, the listener. Check your hands. Do they feel light? Do you feel like you're buffering?
Are you fully here? Or are you somewhere in between?
If you feel the fog, don't just drink more coffee. It might not be physical tiredness. It might be focus drift.
Put down the phone, step outside, feel the air on your skin, plunge back into your senses. Give your brain the contrast it is starving for.
Don't be a zombie. Go take a brisk walk.
And enjoy the contrast.
Before we go, we want to remind you again. This deep dive was based on session 130 of the Seth material.
If you want to see exactly how Seth phrased this, and there's so much nuance in his actual words that we couldn't even cover fully, please check out the books. You can find them at sethcenter.com/the early sessions.
Support the New Awareness Network. They keep this material alive.
And keep your own awareness alive.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you in the next reality.
Or this one. Just make sure you know which one you're in.
Take care, everyone.